Hello guys, welcome to Crackplot. So I've not done one of these for almost 3 years now, and the reason for that is I have not been able to watch a lot of films or read a lot of books for the past couple of years. But now that I have a lot more free time again and I'm able to do that, I thought I'll restart the podcast so that I can share my opinion with all of you. And I'll try to stay a lot more consistent this time around, hopefully dropping at least 2 episodes a week. So this week I'll be talking about SISU today and Kubera directed by Shekhar Kamula tomorrow. And I'll do something a little different when it comes to films, wherein I'll share my non-spoiler opinion about the film first, and then I'll talk about the spoilers, so you can stop after the non-spoiler section and watch the film and then come back if you want to. So without any delay, let's start talking about SISU. So SISU is a Finnish historical action film set during the Second World War, directed by Jalmari Helander. I'm probably butchering that name. But I remember wanting to see this film when it came out in theaters initially, but it had a very limited release at the place I was staying in at that time, so I was not able to. But you can catch it now on Sony Live. And if you are deterred by the fact that this is a film in Finnish, you need not worry because the film barely has any dialogue and the majority of the dialogue is in English. And in the end, there are a few Finnish lines, but you have subtitles for that on Sony Live, so that's not an issue at all. So coming to what I thought of the film, if you like John Wick, you will most probably like Sisu because it's very, very similar to John Wick in many aspects. The first of which is the fact that Sisu has almost no plot. Just like the first John Wick film, the plot line is very thin and simple. It is about a man who has found gold, but a bunch of German soldiers want to rob him of it. But the soldiers obviously don't realize whom they are messing with, and what follows is an hour and a half of beautiful, brutal carnage. The film is very, very violent and bloody. I think even a little bit more violent than the John Wick films. So if you are a bit squeamish about violence, this is definitely not the film for you. But if you enjoy well choreographed action scenes that's bloody and brutal, then you can definitely give Sisu a try. There are certain other similarities to John Wick as well. There is even a Russian nickname that the protagonist has, just like John Wick is Baba Yaga. There is even a dog that the main character in this film has that follows him around. But unlike John Wick, the action is not hyper stylized. It's a lot more real and grounded, because of which you feel the hits are much more bloody and the violence is a lot more scary. Now the title Sisu itself is very, very interesting. It apparently has no English equivalent and is a Finnish word, but what it roughly translates to is determination and willpower and absolute resolve in the face of adversity. When all else fails, when you have exhausted all your willpower, that is when Sisu comes in. And you can feel that character in the action scenes as well. This is not a hero who fights very well or is extremely talented, but he's a man who just refuses to die. There are multiple scenes in the film in which the main character is almost brought to the brink of death, but he just keeps coming back and keeps fighting. The film also has a distinct Tarantino-esque flavor to it, in the sense that the story is told in chapters, and the cinematography and the staging and the way people move in the shots is very reminiscent of Inglourious Bastards. But maybe the setting of World War II is also to blame a little bit. I really enjoyed the first 40 to 45 minutes of this film because it gave me exactly what I wanted. The action is very innovative, brutal and bloody. But after this point, the action more or less fizzles out, and the violence is not about how the protagonist kills the soldiers anymore, and it's more about how he just refuses to die and keeps coming back. And here is where the very short runtime of the film comes to the rescue, because you don't have to sit through much of this portion of the film. But that doesn't take away from the fact that it's a very enjoyable action film with beautiful cinematography, wide shots, and if you enjoy action films and if you have an hour and a half to spare on a weekend, it's definitely worth your time. Now let's start talking about spoilers. So if you want to watch the film, this is probably where you'll want to stop. The first thing that I want to talk about is how little dialogue is there in the film. The main character has almost zero dialogue, and for all I can remember, only has 2 lines, that too at the end of the film. For the rest of the film, he does not speak a single word. And it's the same for the other characters as well. Dialogue is only employed when necessary. Because of which, this becomes a film that demands to be seen. You can't let this film play in the background and then keep a track of what is happening in the story with the help of the dialogues. And it's a very, very beautiful film to look at. There are amazing wide shots of the scenery, and even during the action, it is very easy to follow what is going on. And there are certain shots in this film that are so beautiful they are imprinted into my mind. In the very beginning, you see the hero sitting alone on an empty grassland, and in the sky above him, many fighter planes are flying to the war zone, and the protagonist does not as much as look up at them. He is simply unaffected by the war. There is another shot after he has found the gold that he was looking for. He is on his way to his home or wherever he wants to go to, but in this wide shot, you see the protagonist on his horse contrasted against a huge tank and a truck full of German soldiers coming up against him. It almost visually tells you the odds that the hero is about to face, and it's simply beautiful to look at. Another beautiful shot follows shortly after. The protagonist is on his horse, galloping away from the tank, escaping the German soldiers as the German soldiers are shooting at him, and the dust and the land behind the protagonist keeps exploding. The shot is wide and steady and just keeps traveling along with the protagonist, and the special effects are real, making it all the more beautiful to behold. There is one other moment that I want to talk about, in which my jaw simply dropped to the floor. The protagonist is inside a river. He is under the water, and a few soldiers are on the shore waiting for him to come up to take a breath so that they can shoot him down. The villains send a few of their own men into the river so that they can search for the gold that the hero has dropped. Now what follows is simply mind-blowing. The hero creeps up behind one of the men, cuts their throat open, and as the air from their throat escapes, he breathes it in so that he can stay underwater for longer. He keeps repeating this, and on the surface of the water, you can see the bubbles escaped from their slit throats, shortly followed by blood. Now that was a crazy scene. The acting is great all around. The music is used very minimally, but when it does come in, it is very impactful. But the standouts for me are, as mentioned before, the amazing cinematography and the inventive action, though it does fizzle out a little bit in the end. Overall, I would say I enjoyed the film. The first half promised a lot, which the second half was not able to deliver for me personally, but I would give it a 3 out of 5. So those were my thoughts on SISU. Thank you for your time. See you again soon.